Nestled between the mountain ranges surrounding Tucson, Arizona, and standing side by side with the cacti and desert flora in the Sonoran Desert, lies an Air Force in waiting. After World War II, a suitable location was needed to store vast numbers of aircraft the Army Air Force would no longer be flying. Because of Tucson's small amount of rainfall, low humidity, and alkaline soil content, the Army Air Corps chose what is now Davis-Monthan Air Force Base near Tucson, Arizona, for this storage site. In this area, the soil contains a hard substance called caliche. Because of this, it's possible to park aircraft on the ground rather than build concrete or steel parking ramps. The 4105th Army Air Force Base unit was the first of several forerunners of today's Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Center, known as AMARC. In 1965, the Department of Defense designated the Air Force Logistics Command to manage all aircraft which the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, and Air Force wanted to store. This facility was known as the Military Aircraft Storage and Disposition Center, or MASDIC. Then on 1 October 1985, the name changed again to the Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Center, or AMARC. Today you can see aircraft from the Army, Navy, and Coast Guard, as well as the Air Force at AMARC. The drive-down display row highlights the varied aircraft in AMARC's storage inventory of more than 4,600 aircraft. This fleet provides a unique savings account from which the military units throughout the world may withdraw parts and aircraft as needed. Also, the U.S. government supports our allies with aircraft to strengthen their military capability. When the need arises, many of these aircraft are prepared for flight and returned to operational service. AMARC also stores production tooling, engines, pylons, and many other items for military organizations. Although the storage of aircraft is an impressive part of AMARC's mission, and one which attracts visitors from all over the world, it's only a small part of AMARC's contributions to the defense effort. AMARC's mission is to store and maintain aircraft, withdraw aircraft from storage, reclaim or remove parts, and prepare aircraft for disposal after all needed parts have been removed and they are no longer needed. AMARC has three major processes: process in, process out, and reclamation. The first process is process in. When an aircraft arrives at AMARC, it starts at the process in line. Here, egress personnel remove explosives, making sure the aircraft is safe to work on. Then process in technicians take inventory and remove classified and pilferable items. Next, any corrosion is removed and the aircraft is washed. After this cleaning, they inspect and annotate any discrepancies on the aircraft. AMARC technicians then drain all fuel and perform engine and fuel system preservation. Finally, the storage services section applies a material called Spraylat to seal openings and protect canopies and windows from the hot desert sun. In some cases, AMARC uses large plastic bags instead of Spraylat to protect the top of the aircraft. This allows mechanics much easier access into the aircraft. Once the technicians complete this process, the aircraft can remain in the desert for many years without damage to critical parts or airframes. To further protect these aircraft, which are worth millions of dollars, personnel inspect them at designated cycles. For aircraft destined to fly again, the process-in procedure is repeated every 4 years. Materials laboratory personnel continually test and analyze preservation products and techniques to make sure the best products and procedures are used to protect the aircraft. Here, the technician is testing different materials on this test rack to see how the material holds up to desert conditions. Materials laboratory technicians also check hydraulic fluids and engine oil. AMARC returns to service about 1/4 of the aircraft stored. This is called process out. Technicians take the aircraft out of the desert, remove the spraylat or bag, and then wash and inspect the aircraft. Flightline mechanics must be able to work on all aircraft in the storage inventory, about 58 different types at this time. They perform a variety of tasks to include fuel system maintenance, engine runs, and pre-flights. This mechanic is checking the pitot static system on this F-106 aircraft. All shops support the process out effort. Here you can see the metal processing section technician replacing an F-106 landing gear door hinge pin, and another technician replacing an F-4 baffle plate edge. The welding shop is TIG welding a J79 combustion chamber. The electric shop is checking an F4 altimeter. And at the engine test cell, the propulsion personnel are testing an engine from an F106. The hydraulic shop is reassembling an F106 main landing gear strut after NDI inspection. And the end result of all this? A flyable aircraft. This F106 was in the desert for 8 years before being regenerated. You may be wondering what happens to aircraft that don't fly again. They become a very important source of parts. This is AMARC's third process, reclamation. In many cases, the parts for older aircraft are no longer being produced. The only place a customer can get these parts is at AMARC. In fiscal year 93, AMARC removed 27,056 parts from stored aircraft and returned these parts to the supply system or sent them directly to a customer who needed the part to keep an aircraft flying. The value of the parts AMARC reclaimed was almost $400 million. This is AMARC's reclamation shelter, 3 times as long as a football field. In this shelter, mechanics do a variety of different things, from taking apart an engine to stripping an aircraft of parts. There are 2 kinds of reclamation: routine, which is filling supply bins, and priority, which is supplying a particular part to an organization to keep an aircraft flying. For routine reclamation, AMARC is given a list of parts to be removed from aircraft which arrive at AMARC. Most of these reclamations are done at the shelter. For priority reclamation, mechanics usually go to one of the stored aircraft in the desert and remove the part. AMARC sends parts as small as a radio component or as large as a fuselage or a complete aircraft. Some of these items are shipped by air, while others go overland on trucks or by rail. This AV-8A Harrier has been crated and is ready for shipping to Ames Research Center at Moffett Field, California for NASA. And this EC-135G nose is going to Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. Wartime tasking is a very important part of AMARC's workload. Ever since the first aircraft rolled into this storage site in 1946, the Department of Defense recognized that these aircraft would be invaluable during wartime and contingencies. During the Vietnam conflict, from 1965 through 1972, the center removed a total of 625 aircraft from storage. AMARC's contingency tasking consists of 3 parts: aircraft withdrawal for flyaway, aircraft withdrawal for overland shipment, and priority parts removal. During Operation Desert Storm, parts from AMARC aircraft kept B-52, F-111, F-4, OV-10, C-130, A-7, and P-3 aircraft, as well as some helicopters flying. AMARC's projects are some of the most interesting and challenging in the Air Force. For many years, AMARC has been withdrawing aircraft to be used as full-scale aerial targets, and aircraft flown by remote control. AMARC prepared the F-102 and F-100 for flight, and is now preparing the F-106 and F-4 for flight. The aircraft are flown to a contractor who installs the remote controls and then delivers the aircraft to Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida, or Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. Production tooling storage is a big business at AMARC. At the end of FY93, AMARC had more than 101,000 line items of production tooling, most of it for the B-1B aircraft. AMARC has saved the government millions of dollars in storage costs by storing these items. In addition, AMARC has been a vital player in the arms reduction treaties with Russia. The Treaty for Elimination of Intermediate Range Missiles required that AMARC eliminate 445 missiles and canisters and several other items. There were 11 eliminations during the 2.5-year period, and AMARC hosted the Russians, plus many visitors and media, during each elimination. AMARC again has the opportunity to support a treaty with the Russians, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or START. This treaty, which requires the elimination of heavy bombers, will reduce and limit strategic offensive arms and strengthen international security. AMARC will eliminate about 350 B-52 heavy bombers over a 7-year period. Through peacetime and contingency tasking, the Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Center has developed a workforce that remains versatile and capable of taking on additional projects. For the future, AMARC is preparing itself to assume additional workloads while developing new technologies. Once a simple storage yard, AMARC is now a dynamic industrial complex offering a number of services not only to the Air Force, but to the Department of Defense and government agencies. In fiscal year 93, AMARC returned to service almost $750 million worth of aircraft and aircraft parts. With an operating budget of $50 million, this is a savings to the Department of Defense of $15 for every dollar spent. AMARC is the desert home of our standby veteran aircraft, paid for and still worth billions to American taxpayers. Aircraft that need only fueling and grooming to fly and fight again.